Hi everyone, I am Kelly and this is the Lynn Lozano Show. I teach women how to create the life that they have always dreamed of. So grab a notebook and a journal and let's get busy. Let's get busy believing in yourself and creating the life that you dream of. I'm in the process, actually, we are at the end of teaching a very easy 5-step process on how to create your best possible life, on how to manifest your dream. Here is my little easy to remember for me and you 5-step process. Number 1, decide. Number 2, imagine. And number 2 is episode 2, where we got really clear on what it is that we wanted to dream. Number 3, last week we talked about feelings. Tonight, we're going to talk about my very favorite topic, and that is the how-to. How does all of this happen, Kelly? Well, I call it through serendipity. And number 5, repeat, repeat, repeat. Now, if I talk a little fast tonight, it's because this is my favorite topic to talk about, how it happens. And I get a little excited. When I get excited, like I am right now, I got to slow down because I tend to talk a little fast. So last week, I just want to do a really quick review on feelings. Last week, we talked about the fact that in order to live it, you have to feel it. So dream it, feel it, live it. Now, I gave you some really specific things that you might have to work on in order to clear some space for you to manifest your dreams. If you remember, and if you don't, go ahead and go back when we're done with this and watch last week's episode. We talked about worthiness. We talked about forgiveness. And we talked about reprogramming your thinking, going from that 80% of negative thoughts to turning it into 80% of positive thoughts. So we talked about clearing the way for your imagination to really, really grow and manifest your dreams. And then I also gave you some three different how-to work on manifesting your dreams. Work on feeling it while you're imagining it. The first way that I gave you was to write it down in your journal. I do 5 gratitudes every single day to get me feeling that feeling of awe and gratefulness for all of the things that I already have in my life. Because the more grateful we are for things that we already have, it draws more things into our lives for us to be grateful for. The other thing that I journal every single day is I journal 10, both hands. I journal 10 different scenarios of things that I want to manifest in my life. Now, when I write them down as if they've already happened. And so I'll talk about that a little bit later when I give you some examples, and I'll actually show you some things that have actually manifested in my life and what I actually wrote down when I was working on imagining them and dreaming them up in my life. Now, another way, if I'm not writing down those 10 things in my journal, another way that I work on feeling and manifesting things in my life is I talk about them. I find a friend that I trust or a husband that I trust, and I just talk about my dream. I usually do it when we're on a walk, and I just all out detail, just dream it out loud. I want to give you a really strong tip that if you missed it in the last episode, I want you to catch it this time. And that is that when you're having these dreams, I want you to dream it at the end of what it is you want. And so, for an example, when I'm dreaming about the Girl on Fire conference that I put together, I always dream it from not the standpoint of putting it all together and how it all works coming together. I always put it together in my imagination at the very end. So I see all of the people coming in. I see all of the speakers on stage. And then at the very end, when it's cut and it's over with, that rush of emotion that comes over me at the very end. And usually I'm very tearful. I'm just so grateful and so excited. And those are all of the feelings that I listen, the more you feel, the faster you can bring it into your life. And so really work on getting that feeling in your dreams. The third way is not to actually have a one-on-one conversation with somebody in person, face-to-face, but to have it in your imagination. And so think of that person, that friend, that husband, that husband that wife that you can have this conversation with in your imagination, or me. If you don't have anybody that you can trust with your dreams, if you don't have anybody in your life that you feel like will go like, okay, roll their eyes, then think of me, because I would be so excited for you to call me up and say, Kelly, this is my dream. I'm so excited about it. And I would say, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So think that. And while you're thinking it, put music on. Don't have any other distractions. Just you and your dreams, or no music and you and your dreams. Okay. So that was last week. And of course, go ahead and go back if you haven't watched it and watch that. Now we turn to how to. Well, how does this happen? So I just think it up in my imagination, Kelly, and it's just going to show up. Well, I like to think of it happening in your life like it's serendipity. In the let me see, of course, of all things, here it is, my little definition. So serendipity by definition is the occurrence or development of events by chance in a happy and beneficial way. So it's something that happens by chance in a beneficial and happy way. You can also think about it like this, like an incident of happening. And I'm going to give you an example. You're like, a bridge of happenings, manifesting my dreams. Kelly, you're talking a foreign language to me. All right, so let me give you an example of how this has happened in my life. I did a Girl on Fire conference January this year, 2020, and before the conference, I had it all set up. I was all ready to post it. I had a date that I wanted to post it by. The conference. I wanted to post it for ticket sales by my birthday, which was September 4th of 2019, so that I could sell tickets from September until the conference, which I was hoping to sell out before then. And that was also on my dream list. But the first thing that I needed, I already had a lineup of speakers that were local to my area, but I needed that keynote speaker. I needed a keynote. I needed a name that was going to really intrigue people and draw people in. And so I just wrote down in my journal, one of my 10 things was I found the most exciting keynote speaker for the conference. And I kept writing it down every single day. The key to those 10 things that you write down that you want to happen is you write down the exact same 10 until they happen. And then you just plug in a new one. You just keep writing them and writing them and writing them. Your job is not how to make it happen. Your job is to get busy living. And living with integrity. What does that mean, Kelly? Get busy living. Well, living with integrity, living with kindness, being on time for your job, doing your job, even though you might not like your job, doing your job the very best that you can do your job at, because it is that goodness that manifests and brings more of something good into your life. So when I put this out into the universe, I just kept busy at my life. So I own the Grand Trunk Marketplace in Port Huron, Michigan. And I have it's a vintage inspired marketplace. So it's a 8,000 square foot warehouse that I rent space out to small business minded people that have curated booths, and they come in and they set it up and they tag it and they inventory it, and I sell it for them. And I had a vendor and his name was Glenn. And to be honest with you, at the time, I had written down, I had saw his name on his application, but I didn't remember it. I just knew Glenn as Glenn. And I always have these conversations with my vendors. They're creative. I have the most creative vendors. They're creative entrepreneurs. We all think alike, talk alike. And we were chatting one day, Glenn and I. And I started to talk about the conference because it was on the front of my mind all the time. And as we talked about it, I said, I'm looking for this keynote speaker. And Glenn said, well, you should call my daughter. My daughter does speaking. And I said, well, who's your daughter? And he said, Amelia Earhart. And I said, well, what's your last name, Glenn? And he said, Earhart. I said, your daughter is Amelia Earhart? He said, yes. And she actually flew, she's a pilot, and she actually flew the original Amelia Earhart's flight over the transatlantic. She did it with herself, and she took along a co-pilot. That was a happy occurrence. That was my bridge of incident. I was busy living. I was doing what I love to do. I was talking with somebody that I care about, that we had a connection, and that was the bridge of incident that brought in Amelia Earhart, the keynote speaker, to the 2020 Girl on Fire conference. Okay, let me give you another example, right? Because you're like, okay, Kelly, well, that's just one example. I want to give you another example. Another example is I have this book. Besides my journal where I write my 10 things in, I have what I call my big ask book. And yeah, my big ask book. And now this is a little bit different than my dream book. It's a dream book in a way, and we'll talk about this in another episode. I'll break this down for you differently. But in my big ask book, I just write down things that I would really like to have in my life. Now, I don't have a complete, full description of each of these in this book, but I have it in my imagination. And so some things in my book, you can see the highlighted there, some things in my book that are highlighted that have actually come true. In my ask book, I write down dreams, just dreams. So one of them, actually it's number 11, is my own TV show, the Lynn Lozano Show. I got a phone call one day from Karen Pelka with a beautiful me, and she's like, Kelly, me and so would like to meet with you on Thursday. Are you available? Yep, I'm available. We met, and I had no idea what we were meeting about, and they asked me to come on board with Entirely Women. They have a web page where they have things going on that inspire, equip, and connect women together. They were missing the third component, and they've been looking for a couple years for that person to fill that spot. She said, your name keeps coming up, and we would like you to do a video show to inspire and equip women. A happy bridge of incidents, right? That happened. Now, I want to share with you a couple other things on my list. On my list is an office all my own. And sometimes it's not necessarily about something happening on that bridge of incident, but it's about being connected to your source. My source is God. And I'm always listening for a word that God would have for me. And one day, while I was in my office at the Grand Trunk Marketplace, I heard God say to me, you need to call Matt Brooks and you need to get an office in the new co-op space that he's opening up. I didn't question it, and here's why. Because I know that voice. I know that voice. And you might be saying, well, Kelly, how do you know that voice? I know that voice because it is not my voice, but it is a voice that connects to my heart. It's a safe voice. I might not always know what the voice is telling me to do. I might not know where it's going to take me, but I always trust it. And I called Matt Brooks, and Stephen and I came over, and that's where I'm filming from. I'm filming from my office space. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I first came in here and got it set up, I'm like, God, I don't get it. I don't get it. I had this beautiful office at the Grand Trunk Marketplace, and I'm not feeling it. And all of these different things now, I'm meeting so many people here, and it's a great opportunity for me to connect with the community, and I get it now. So you don't always have to have a physical bridge of incident. It can also be a spiritual if you are connected to your source. The other thing that I want to tell you that has happened to me very recently is that I have fixed a relationship that was broken with my dad. And my dad and I had a falling out about a year and a half ago, and we hadn't really had a relationship or connected in over a year. It was very hurtful to me. I'm stubborn. He's stubborn, and I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to pick up the phone. Well, I don't want to say I didn't know how to pick up the phone and fix it. I just didn't pick up the phone. And so what I did was I wrote it in my Ask book, A Close Relationship with My Dad. And in my journal of my 10 things, one of my 10 things, and it still is to this day, is that I am a kind and loving daughter. And that, that is to both my parents, both to my mother and to my father. And so things just worked out to where my mother and my father, it's kind of a long story, but they had, after, 60 years, got a divorce. Crazy story. I may tell you about it someday. And they ended up getting back together. And it was through them getting back together and my dad moving back here with my mom that my father and I rekindled our relationship. And so that is very exciting. 2 more examples, one another positive one, and then the last one, I want to give you an example of what it is to think that you're getting and how to in a bridge of incident, but really you're not. So the last positive one is one of the things that, remember I told you when you're feeling it to put on music and have a conversation in your head with somebody else telling them the dream? Well, one of my dreams went like this. Very simple. I, with ease, and you can use this yourself, write it down. I, with ease, have just received an extra $1,000 in my checking account. So I'll put on music and I'll put that thought in my mind. I will see and feel what it feels like to check on my balance on my checking account and to see an extra $1,000 in there and what it feels like and how excited it is, how excited I get about it. And that was one of the things that I'd been working on, like not for very long. Maybe dropped that into my imagination, into my dream world about 2 weeks ago. And Stephen and I were out to lunch, and he happened to pull out his phone and check on our account, and he's like, I don't know where this 800 and we got an extra 800 and some dollars in our checking account. Excuse me, and I get this great big smile on my face, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally manifested that for us. And so It works. If you just take the time to work the 5 simple, easy step process to manifesting your dream. Now, the last example that I want to give you is what it feels like when it's not the universe telling you to do something. So the Grand Trunk Marketplace I've had since 2017. In 2017, we started to look for a building to have this vintage-inspired marketplace that I wanted to have. I found this building in February, and I thought that this was the building. This is where the Grand Trunk Marketplace was going to be. It was perfect. It was perfect. So I called the person that owned it. We met several times. I went through the building several times. I was stuck on this building. I got the contract for the building. It was about a 17-page contract. Now, I have a business partner who's also a business mentor, and he knows contracts, he knows businesses. This was my first rodeo. This is my first business. It was my first leap of faith. I've never done anything like this before. And so I said, Chris, I got the contract. I sent him a copy of the contract, and he's like, he wants a 3-year personal guarantee that if your business doesn't work, Kelly, you're still going to have to pay rent. So if you open up your doors and it doesn't work out in 7 months, you're still going to pay rent for 3 years. He's like, I'm not signing it, and I don't recommend that you sign it. I said, okay. I called him up. I called up the man with the lease, and I'm like, can you, can we negotiate this? I got him down to a year. And then I started to give the contract to attorneys to look at. 4 different attorneys I gave the contract to look at. Every single one said, Kelly, red flag, don't do it. So I was so devastated because I really felt like this was the building. And of course, I didn't know any better, right? And I fasted. I fasted for 3 days. We started to look at other buildings. I found another building that I really liked. I had somebody come in. I took a look at it. I kept going back to the building. Finally, the landlord said, Kelly, take the key. If you decide you want the building, great. If you don't, bring me back the key. Because every single day, I'm like, I just got to walk through it. I got to look at it. I got to know what it feels like. And I said, okay, write me up a contract. The contract was 1.5 pages long. There was no personal guarantee needed. I had been negotiating the contract that was 17 pages for so long. I really didn't need a lot of Chris's help on this, and I was able to negotiate some few things that I knew that we needed in the contract that were not there, and I was able to I did it all myself. I was so excited. And we got the keys on June 1st, 2017. But that was an example of trying to make something happen, pushing, and it wasn't meant to be. But when you let it go, for me, when I'm looking for an answer, I fast. And I got my answer. I just love to see these dreams come true in my life. I get so stinking excited about it, and I'm so excited for you about it. I'm so excited for you about it. Now, I want you to remember that the 5-step process is you decide what you want. You imagine exactly how it's going to feel once it comes true. You get incredibly clear about it. You have to feel it to live it. Dream it, feel it, live it. Last week's episode. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe. Go to my YouTube channel. Find the past episodes. If you want to, you can go to entirelywomen.com. All of the episodes are there. then you have to let it happen. Get busy living. Live the best quality life that you can live, but be on the lookout. Be on the lookout for the universe showing you the way. Trust it and live it. It is just the most amazing thing, and that is why I am here encouraging you. I have spent the last 5-6 years of my life completely changing my life. It is wonderful. I'm so excited to be out of debt. I'm so excited to be having relationships in my life that are meaningful and loving. I'm excited to have happy finances finally in my life. I am working on health and wellness, and it has been a struggle for me, and we will talk about health and wellness further down the road in the show. But I wish you well when it comes to manifesting your dreams. And we'll talk more about it on Thursday nights on Kelly Lozano Live at 7 o'clock. So you can meet me over there on Facebook at the Kelly Lynn Lozano Facebook page at 7 p.m. on Thursday nights. However, next week, Monday, on the Kelly Lynn Lozano Show, we are going to begin to talk about other things that will help you in this process of not only manifesting your dreams, but living your best possible life. So next week, we are going to talk about purpose, finding your gift, knowing your purpose. I'm so happy that you have made it this far in the Kelly Lynn Lozano Show. Listen, if you are here and you are watching and if you just happened by this video, now you know you didn't just happen by the video. Somewhere in your imagination, you have been looking for an answer. You have been looking for a cheerleader, somebody to teach you and to cheer you on. And guess what, girlfriend? You found it. I am so excited for you, and I will see you Thursday night on the Kelly Lynn Lozano Show at 7 p.m. or next week right here. Have a good one. Bye-bye, ladies.